The Death and Life of Self Culture, Section 1. On April 10th, 1951, 3 weeks after Henrietta started radiation therapy, George Guy appeared on WAAM television in Baltimore for a special show devoted to his work. With dramatic music in the background, the announcer said, "Tonight, we will learn why scientists believe that cancer can be conquered." The camera flashed to Guy, sitting at a desk in front of a wall covered with pictures of cells. His face was long and handsome, with a pointed nose, black plastic bifocals, and a Charlie Chaplin mustache. He sat stiff and straight backed, tweed suit perfectly pressed, white handkerchief in his breast pocket, hair slicked. His eyes darted off screen, then back to the camera as he drummed his fingers on the desk, his face expressionless. The normal cells, which make up our body, are tiny objects, 5,000 of which would fit on the head of a pin. He said, his voice a bit too loud and stilted. How the normal cells become cancerous is still a mystery. He gave viewers a basic overview of cell structure and cancer using diagrams and a long wooden pointer. He showed films of cells moving across the screen, their edges inching further and further into the empty space around them, and he zoomed in on one cancer cell, its edges round and smooth, until it began to quiver and shake violently, exploding into 5 cancer cells. At one point he said, "Now let me show you a bottle in which we have grown massive quantities of cancer cells." He picked up a clear glass pint-sized bottle, most likely full of Henrietta's cells, and rocked it in his hands as he explained that his lab was using those cells to find ways to stop cancer. He said, "It is quite possible that from fundamental studies such as these that we will be able to learn a way by which cancer cells can be damaged or completely wiped out." To help make that happen, Guy began sending Henrietta cells to any scientist who might use them for cancer research. Shipping live cells in the mail, a common practice today, wasn't done at the time. Instead, Guy sent them via plane in tubes with a few drops of culture medium, just enough to keep them alive for a short time. Sometimes, pilots or stewards tucked the tubes in their shirt pockets to keep the cells at body temperature, as if they were still in an incubator. Other times, when the cells had to ride in the cargo hold, Guy tucked them into holes carved in blocks of ice to help keep them from overheating. Then packed the ice in cardboard boxes filled with sawdust. When shipments were ready to go, Guy would warn recipients that the cells were about to metastasize to their cities so they could stand ready to fetch the shipment and rush back to their labs. If all went well, the cells survived. If not, Guy packaged up another batch and tried again. He sent shipments of HeLa to researchers in Texas, India, New York, Amsterdam, and many places between. Those researchers gave them to more researchers who gave them to more still. Henrietta's cells rode into the mountains of Chile in the saddlebags of pack mules as Guy flew from one lab to another, demonstrating his culturing techniques and helping to set up new laboratories. He always flew with tubes of Henrietta's cells in his breast pocket. And when scientists visited Guy's lab to learn his technique, he usually sent them home with a vial or two of HeLa cells. In letters, Guy and some of his colleagues began referring to the cells as his, quote, precious babies. The reason Henrietta's cells were so precious was because they allowed scientists to perform experiments that would have been impossible with a living human. They cut HeLa cells apart and exposed them to endless toxins, radiation, and infections. They bombarded them with drugs, hoping to find one that would kill malignant cells without destroying normal ones. They studied immune suppression and cancer growth by injecting HeLa cells into immune-compromised rats, which developed malignant tumors much like Henrietta's. If the cells died in the process, it didn't matter. Scientists could just go back to the eternally growing HeLa stock and start over again. Despite the spread of HeLa and the flurry of new research that followed, there were no news stories about the birth of the amazing HeLa cell line and how it might help stop cancer. In Guy's one appearance on television, he didn't mention Henrietta or her cells by name, so the general public knew nothing of HeLa. But even if they had known, they probably wouldn't have paid it much mind. For decades, the press had reporting that cell culture was going to save the world from disease and make man immortal. But by 1951, the general public had stopped buying it. Cell culture had become less a medical miracle than something out of a scary science fiction movie.